Hey guys, what's up? We're back. First drive with 12.5.1.3. I got a great trip plugged in. I'm going to tell you what we're going to have on the trip today. First of all, right off the bat, we're going to have an unprotected left. We're going to go over a railroad intersection. We're going to do an entrance onto the interstate highway. We're going to have some highway travel. We're going to have construction zone exit off the highway. Then we're going to wind through residential area and then downtown area. So let's go. First drive on 12.5.1.3. Is it going to go? Is it going to go? Is it going to go? Oh, stutter. Car behind us. I'm hitting the accelerator. All right, and we're off. Right off the bat, guys, we've got an unprotected left. What I like about this unprotected left is that it is a four-way as well. No cars coming on the other side of the four-way today. We do have this Jeep to our right, so we're going to stop here. And we do have two cars on the left, so a good test. It's going to creep out a little bit. Do have a little bit of drizzle today. Should be clear after this car. And nice and smooth. Oh, a little close to the curb, but no contact. So yeah, what do we know about 12.5.1.3? We know that we've got a ton more neurons, as I call them. So we've got a lot more connections. We're training still, I believe. I think last time I was saying, that this might be trained on the hardware 4 model. I think we're still training with hardware 3 footage, running in emulation mode. We are running a Model Y 2023 hardware 4. I did notice in the software update that it said there's some things coming in the future which we don't have yet. One of those is going to be the Cybertruck, which we will have footage on this channel of FSD on the Cybertruck once that drops. All right, I got to pay attention. We have a pedestrian crossing here. Want to make sure there's nobody here. We are all clear. We're going to be heading up here to a railroad crossing and heading left. So far, smooth. So yeah, we've made some leaps ahead with the 12.5 branch, and I think every time we're getting one of these updates every few weeks from 12.5.1.1 to 12.5.1.3, we're essentially adding neurons to the neural network. Oh, by the way, that's the other thing they're changing. In the future, it says we're going to have end-to-end on the highway. So we are getting on the highway today, but we do not yet have the end-to-end stack in 12.5.1.3. That was a nice little maneuver there. Kind of went over the yellow line, squeezed through nicely. We are stopping okay here. There's railroad tracks. Now a human would go forward and stop again on that white line. We've got nobody behind us, so I'm going to just sit and let it see. We do have a turn signal now, or a turn arrow now, so it goes. So a little different than what a human would do there. Human would have crossed the railroad tracks. Nice acceleration. We did go over the yellow line there on that turn, so it cut it kind of close. I am on assertive mode, and we are on chill, just for acceleration. So I've got a little, I was reading up about how to get these waypoints put in so that I've got a number of stops so I could create a path that tests a few things today. And a trick that you can do, I think, I'm going to try it today, is I can just edit the trip and remove one of the waypoints when I'm approaching it. That way, it'll just go automatically to the next waypoint. So we are going to need to be going right here in point 2. We kind of passed all those cars on the right going 44 and a 40. Totally, that's what an assertive human would do in that situation. Nice smooth lane changes. We're going to be going right here. One of the things they fixed from 12.3.6 to the 12.5 version was the lane weaving. Very nice, smooth transition into the right turn lane there. We do have the right arrow. It should go, and it's stopping unnecessarily. Unnecessary stop. I'm going to hit the accelerator. So nothing dangerous there, but it stopped when it had the right arrow to turn. All right, we're going to be heading up here through some intersections. You know, last time, guys, I made a joke at the beginning about bootlickers, and some people gave me some crap for that. Look, I have I have no problem with what Holmars and some Dirty Tesla, what some of these guys are doing. I do think that their opinions are a little bit biased sometimes. I know they're out there testing. Do I have a little bit of jealousy that they get 12.5.1.3 3 days before I do? Sure. I mean, they're making their YouTube channels. They get early access to these updates. So they're a privileged group. I've been out testing for a year. I'd love to get 12.5.1.3 before everybody else, so my YouTube video can go up before anybody else's. But that's all I was saying. Just a little playful jab at those guys. Nothing but love for all the testers out there. Maybe one day I'll get into that elite group. So we're gonna go straight up here and then take a left into the Walmart Supercenter. And as we approach, once we get in there, I'm going to edit the trip and remove that waypoint and see if it'll automatically direct us to the next waypoint, which will be a getting onto the highway entrance. What I love about this highway entrance and exit is we have some construction at the end of the highway when we get off the highway. And last time on 12.5.1.1, it got tripped up and made a wrong turn. Nothing wrong with the, more of a misreading of the maps, since the construction varies from what the maps say, so it got confused. All right, I'm gonna try to remove this Walmart here and see what happens. It's telling me to pay attention to the road. I'm gonna give it a little nag. All right, so I removed it, and now let's see what it's gonna do. So it's pulling in. It needs to be turned around. Let's see if it can find its way out and back. I think it will. But this is a good little test of the parking lot. Excited for how fast these updates are coming. Like I said, I'm pretty sure, you know, Tesla keeps some of this stuff close to the chest about what they're doing, but I'm pretty sure that they are increasing these training models with each iteration here, just pumping new video into each one. This is nice little maneuver here. We're going to be going right here. Found its way out of that parking lot beautifully. And hey, added bonus, we got a little roundabout today. Was not expecting to go through this. Don't have any cars. You know, roundabouts have basically been solved for a while. Nice, smooth roundabout. Oot-a-boot, the roundabout, as they say up north. Taking this one slower than previous versions, actually. That was a very, very slow roundabout, which is fine. I don't need to be generating G-forces on an empty roundabout, throwing my body to the right as we whip around there. So that's fine. It was a nice, steady roundabout, but definitely has taken it more aggressively in the past. All right, so we're going to be getting on the highway. This is one of the advantages of living here versus some of the footage out of San Francisco area, is we actually have real interstate highways that we can add into our trip. So we've got a right on red situation. A human would go right now. Now there are cars. So maybe a human would have gotten into an accident then. We've got a lot of cars coming, so we need to pause. Pauses nicely, creeps out nicely. Hovering my foot over the brake since this semi's coming. A human would go now. Yeah, a human would have found that gap. Definitely a human would go now. Okay. Now we need to get into the left lane here, and there is a car coming up behind us. Okay, nice transition into the lane here. Now we're gonna take this on-ramp. So like I said, we are not yet end-to-end on the highway. I looked in the software update notes, and it did say future updates are gonna be end-to-end on the highway. So we're not there yet. So we're still running the old code on the highway. One of the ways you can tell that it's the old code is if you see traffic cones. The old code has an actual traffic cone icon that shows up on the monitor, and end to end shows up as a, almost looks like a dirt pile, like a little mound. And so that's how you can tell which you're running. Should be a smooth entrance onto the highway, no cars around. Very nice. You know, a couple things I've noticed about the highway stack that they need to fix. I'm going to have a video out when lanes are coming to an end because of construction. It has problems with that. The other issue it has is sometimes it'll hang out in the passing lane for far too long. We're going to be on this for a couple miles. It changed to the middle lane. Nothing wrong with that. Especially if you have a lot of entrance ramps on the right, it's fine to get over. But I have noticed that the highway stack hangs out in the left lane a little too much and causes cars to get upset that are behind you and pass you on the right, things like that. So yeah, maybe highway etiquette will be one of the last things to get added when we get to end on the highway. But I will say, you know, I just drove 3 hours from Chicago the other day, and I flipped on FSD, and I got to tell you, I was kind of tired. I noticed that driving with FSD when you're tired on a long road trip is so much better than just driving tired. Okay, you can see the icons. So we're still on the old stack, kind of mixed in with some of those mounds, but you see how these are all showing up as icons. All right, so we're coming up to a construction zone exit. Definitely makes me a little nervous because the exit is not where it is on the map. So it has to find the exit, and then once we get off on the exit, it has to figure out where to go. A little hard brake there. It does look like it's finding the exit. It showed a blue line there like it was going to stop, so definitely thought through that, found it okay. Now we need to stay right at this, and the problem is that it really doesn't know that, and you can see it's already messed up. I'm going to take over there because that's the wrong direction. So that's that's really just a problem with the maps versus FSD. It's not like FSD was going to do something dangerous. It was just going to do an unnecessary exit to the left and then probably, I don't know, do a 360 and come back around. So yeah, I can't yet read construction zone signs the way a human does. That tripped it up before on 12.5.1.1, still tripped up on 12.5.1.3. All right, I'm gonna edit here, take this out, and recalculate route. Still wants to go left even though I pulled this out. Let's see what it does here. Now I want to go straight. I'm in the left turn lane. Let's see what it does. So I'm stuck in left turn lane. We got a blinking left turn arrow. I like how it stops here and not in the middle of the intersection. That is actually what you are lawfully supposed to do. I know everybody does the pull out into the intersection and then go once it's a red light, but all right, so we're going to pull a roundabout maneuver here, and it looks like it wants to get back on the highway. So I might edit this route. Let's just go back. Let's see. Let's do another. Actually, I'm going to edit this route because I want to make sure we get the downtown driving in and some residential. So give me one beat here, and I'll be right back with you. All right, we're back. Got that fixed. Want to make sure we get through some residential area and downtown area. Mostly downtown area, actually. All right, we're going to be heading left here onto First Ave. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, other people I've read over the last couple of days that have been on this version have said huge leap forward. Yeah, I mean, we're getting to a point where it's getting hard to distinguish. I mean, it's doing really, really well on driving in town. We did have that green arrow that it stopped at early on the trip. Could have done better on that. So not perfect yet, but we're definitely getting better. I mean, think back to where we are now compared to 6 months ago. World of difference. You forget, it didn't used to always be this smooth. If you have passengers, which I've done a number of times, you have passengers in your car, you flip this on, they think a human's driving. Very, very smooth. It's almost like a human is driving the way a human should drive, if that makes any sense. Like, it's better at driving like a human than a human is, if that makes sense. But yeah, definitely exciting stuff. Always stops a little bit far back as it's kind of creeping forward toward this Corolla. Nothing wrong with that. This is kind of an interesting intersection because there is a stop here on red with this old railroad crossing. I haven't really paid attention to the windshield wipers. Have they been going off? I have no memory of it. Still a little drizzly. The other thing I noticed too on the highway drives is sometimes it'll hang out in people's blind spots. This is a behavior that if you've been a human driver for any amount of time, you just kind of know to stay out of people's blind spots. You don't hang out in them. You know, this truck on our right here, if there were more traffic, I could understand being here, but if I don't need to be, I'm not going to hang out in another vehicle's blind spot. And I just haven't, that's not something that FSD has been trained on any version, I can tell. But it's just one of those extra cautious maneuvers that a good driver would do. Anticipation, of course, leads to safety, and not hanging out in blind spots is just good practice. You know, the other thing I noticed, I've said this before on this channel, when I was driving back from Chicago, there was a vehicle in the left lane that had a bumper had gotten into some kind of accident, and the bumper was just flapping in the wind, and FSD was hanging out just in the back right of this vehicle while this bumper's flapping all over the place. And obviously, as a human, I'm trained on that. I know that bumper could fly off at any moment, so I took over and got out of the way, put another car between me and that bumper. But that's just something that eventually you can, of course, train FSD on. It just, I know it hasn't been done yet because there's no reaction to those kind of visual cues. Obviously, they're not prioritizing that right now, but once you get the basic driving solved, then you can add on to the model all kinds of object avoidance and anticipation of objects, whether it be things falling out of the back of cars or breaking off of cars, or you could add all kinds of clips in theory. You could add clips of drunk people stumbling along the side of the road and falling into the road, and you could train the model to see unsteady people on their feet, and drive differently around those objects, people, but objects the computer sees them as. So all kinds of stuff that you can do in the future. Let me see if I can edit out this waypoint. Good. So we're going to head through downtown. This road is always a good road to test on because it's 4 lanes and it's as tight as you can make 4 lanes. And when we get up to this stoplight here, it's another good test because I don't even think there's enough room. If we were going left and the cars in front of us were going left, I don't even think there's enough room. Even humans have to kind of take turns making the turn. It's the worst intersection, tightest intersection in the history of mankind. So a good test for FSD. But yeah, this road, really, really tight lanes. In theory, FSD should drive better than humans on this. That's the other thing I was thinking, you guys, this is incredible that FSD is doing this with 99% of other drivers on the road being humans. If all the cars on the road were FSD, uh, it would be so much easier. It would be so much smoother, so much easier. Really, the challenge is, can you get a computer to interact with humans safer than a human interacting with humans? But if you have computers interacting with computers, I mean, think of the possibilities. You could have the cars talking. You don't need stoplights at that point anymore. You come up to an intersection where you have 10 cars coming from one way and 10 cars coming from the other way. If they're talking to each other, you don't need stoplights. They could they could stagger their procession through the intersection in a way where they could just slow down enough and they're communicating with each vector so that they can all just kind of fly through like a bunch of bees crossing paths or a flock of birds crossing paths. They could just fly through without the use of any stoplights or traffic. If that of course only works if all of the vehicles are communicating to one another and they're all running FSD. And there, of course, is a future where that can happen. And that future is rapidly approaching. Now, in the beginning, I suspect you'd have to have that geo-fenced in an area where you only had vehicles operating in that manner. In other words, human driving free zone. You know, you are now entering a human driving free zone. You must turn on FSD to operate in this area. And I bet the numbers of accidents in those areas would be next to zero. And we're not too far off from that. We need a few brave jurisdictions that want to try something like that, and we'll be there. So we didn't take the tight intersection I was talking about. It actually took us down one turn earlier. But we'll still get some downtown driving here as we go through the campus area. We got this vehicle getting into our lane. It's another thing I like about these latest iterations is it doesn't overreact to vehicles that are like this vehicle that got into our lane. It doesn't overreact and brake like previous versions did. It anticipates the future position of vehicles much, much better. So we're going to go right here and let me edit this waypoint out. Once we head right here, there's a pedestrian crossing where a lot of students go by. It's a good test for FSD. A lot of humans blow through it. Really, you're supposed to stop. It's kind of a rainy day today, so I don't know how many pedestrians are going to be out crossing this, how many students are going to be out, but we'll head right here. Nice, smooth, kind of creeping forward there. It doesn't do the accordion thing, just kind of creeps forward nicely. All right, I do see some people on the right. I do see a person on the left. They're kind of stopped. Now, unless they're showing intent to cross this, we should just go through, which we do. So let's see. How has this trip gone? No safety interventions. I've intervened twice. Once because it just, well, really three times. At the beginning, it just didn't even move. So I hit the accelerator. I intervened again at that green right turn arrow because it stopped and wasn't going through. And then I intervened again when it got the mapping wrong on the construction zone. No safety interventions though. But again, if we're gonna have me sitting in the back of this and this is a robo-taxi, yellow light, it's gonna stop here. If we're sitting in the back and this is a robo-taxi, I can't have those. I mean, it's not the end of the world if I sit through a right arrow, but it's certainly not efficient. So, you know, for a good robo-taxi, it shouldn't make mistakes like that. But safety-wise, no concerns. We're gonna go to our final waypoint here. Just head through this downtown area. Don't anticipate any problems. This has been a good drive so far. Do I notice a huge difference from 12.5.1.1 to 12.5.1.3 when we're not on the highway? No, it feels pretty similar. We're going to keep testing. It feels very smooth. So we're still going left here. We got a stopped vehicle on the right. What's it going to do? All right, it rerouted. I like this route better. Some tighter residential areas up here once we get to Church Street. Creeping up to this stoplight very, very slowly. It did that with 12.5.1.1 as well. What are we at? 26 minutes. Yeah, this will be about a 30-minute video. Thank you guys for coming along for the ride. I always want to take you out on the first ride so you get my reaction raw as it happens to the new updates. And I'm anticipating we're going to get some new updates every week or two here. As we keep adding nodes to the neural network. I'll be excited for the highway once we get end to end on the highway. It's always a little nervous trusting a computer when you're going 70 miles an hour with semis around you. But in the name of science, we press on. Hopefully I won't get famous because of some horrible accident someday. But you really do start trusting it. I mean, you really do start getting a feel for it. In the beginning, it was a lot more nerve-wracking, talking about like a year ago. It's a lot more nerve-wracking than it is now. Now, part of that is just the versions have gotten better. But part of it is that you really do start to get a feel for the boundaries of what the software is capable of. Ooh, big dip. Big dip. You know, I didn't do any speed bumps on this, but really they've solved speed bumps. So they added that into the training. You can go back, check out some of my other videos. Speed bumps are solved. And a section like that where there was a really quick kind of up and down, it didn't see that at all. It made me kind of tense up a little bit. We're going left here. We've got 3-4 vehicles on the right. It's going to creep out. I like seeing how smooth this feels. This is a one-way to the left. I like kind of trying to feel, how does this compare to a human? Man, that's almost indistinguishable. I mean, the way it just creeps forward a little bit to check and then pulls out so smoothly after that fourth car, it's indistinguishable from a human. It's human driving better than a human drives. That's really what that feels like. And it wasn't like that a few months ago. Cobblestone kind of roads. I know it's picked up on potholes better. So there's a lot that it can still be trained on, and I think the final battle is going to be reading signs and then anticipating objects like things falling off or things blowing across in the wind, small animals, raccoons, squirrels, really dialing in object avoidance and anticipation for those things. I think that's going to be the final battle. And then once we get all that added in, man, it's going to be hard to make an argument that we have not arrived. So, all right, we're here at our destination. No safety interventions. Like I said, about 3 interventions just for some navigation and unnecessary pausing. But thanks for coming along, guys. We'll see you at the next update, maybe sooner. I got a couple other things I want to test. Appreciate you coming along. We'll see you next time.